Okay, we are back, and we have just been brainstorming all sorts of interesting things to share with you guys and to talk about. And one of the things that we thought of is, we're around all these huge, gigantic, giant redwood trees that are ancient beyond anything. So even when they're not that tall of a tree, like an ancient tree that you can see up at some of the different, beautiful national parks.
Yes.
We're still in an area that these roots of these trees are really, really old and really, really ancient. And you've got some big ones on your property too, right?
We do. And I mean, a lot of the properties were logged, but when you see the huge stumps, and then, we're enjoying the ones that have come after that. But you realized how huge they were. And the essence, and just the way that the mist, we're so lucky here where we live in Spring Creek, because the mist comes in, and that's what they need. It's too dry, like even across Sherwood Road at Third Gate, it's too dry for redwoods. So that was one of the reasons that we were drawn here. That feeling that essence.
Well, and I found out that this is like the highest altitude that the redwoods actually grow. I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I mean, when all the trees were burning in Australia and in Africa, I went and bought baby redwood trees and I planted them here. But they said, well, what altitude are you at? And I told them, they said, oh, well, you need the high altitude redwood trees. And I was like, there are high altitude redwood trees? And there's like, yeah. And they said, we actually get the trees from your area. We get the seeds from your area. And so, but the reason they can grow here, just like you said, is that number one, like, well, you have a pond, there's water here, all the way to the top of the ridge, there's water, and we have water too, which is shocking. Like, where's the water coming from? We're at the top of the ridge, right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, they breathe and they drink through the mist. The leaves actually, so the mist that comes in and out here, that's what's so amazing about these trees.
It is.
And so, and I know that for myself, when I went to Peru, I learned a whole nother system, which was actually the stones. And that the stones actually carry a vibration of energy, and the shaman basically say the stones vibrate slower than a tree and slower than you and me, but they actually are alive and that they still vibrate at a certain frequency. And and when we were in Peru, it was amazing that there was this place you could stand in Machu Picchu that supposedly, if you closed your eyes and you allowed yourself, the stone would transport you to the Temple of Light. And there was this tiny little point that you could stand on that literally was like a 2,000-foot drop down, and it was super scary to stand there, but that's where you were supposed to stand. I didn't stand, I sat on it. I was not going to fall over closing my eyes trying to be transported. I sat on it, I figured it would still work, and so you feel yourself kind of being transported by the crystal, that's in the rocks that are there, to this beautiful place. And we were thinking about the stones, the beautiful stones in like Stonehenge and in England and all these stone circles, because there's a lot of stone circles in England, right? And you were there.
Right, so when we went to England and Ireland, we actually got a map, and it has all of the different stone circles and monuments you go visit. And some of them you can't go visit because they're on private property, unless you know that person.
Right.
So we went to Castle Rigg Stone Circle and many dolmens and burial sites and things like that. And I saw this woman, and she had her hand against the stone. And I really looked at her, and I could tell that she was really feeling the energy of the stone. And, I had, put my arms around trees and redwoods and things, but we don't have those kind of stones here. And I went over and I touched that stone, and I could feel the vibration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I stayed there for quite a long time.
Wow.
And it was exciting. And then we went to Avebury. So then each stone circle we went to, of course, we would feel the energy. And at Avebury, we were lucky enough, it was Beltane.
Oh, wow.
And there was a Druid priestess who I actually read a book about. She was actually rather famous. And she was conducting a hand fasting.
Oh, wow.
And the young man had the horns on.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it was exciting. And she was like, he was like being hand fasted to the May Queen.
Oh, wow.
So that was exciting. And then we went to Stonehenge. They do have to have a barrier around it because people were defacing the stones. And so it was really early in the morning. There was a lot of fog out, and there weren't a lot of people yet. We were there before the tour buses. And so my husband and I are standing looking at the stones, and I said to John, if I could just touch those stones. And he said, I don't think you can. And so it just so happened that the guard came over. He was on the other side of the fence. And John said, well, my wife was wondering, is it possible for her to touch and feel the energy of the stones? And he kind of looks around and he goes, well, sure. And so I was able to, it was just like a cloth barrier. And I could feel that energy. That was so special.
Wow.
And he said, take as long as you want.
Oh, wow.
So there I was, feeling the energy of Stonehenge. And that was kind of life-changing, actually. There's, like we have old redwoods, but how old is Stonehenge?
Right.
And here you are, on this plane at this time, bringing in that energy. And to me, I really saw that, like in Outlander, one of my very favorite series, she's transported to another place because she's in that stone circle. And I really feel that there's a lot of magic in those stones.
Yeah.
And we are lucky to be able to spend some time with them and also become a part of that energy.
Yeah. Well, and I really believe that, the vibrations that our intentions that we put into a stone can stay there a very, very long time. It doesn't vibrate out as quickly, right?
No.
And I remember being in Peru with one of the shaman whose name is Juan de Diaz Cucho, and he came to do a celebration at Machu Picchu at night because he's the only shaman allowed in at night. And he came in the full Inca regalia, like the whole, and he's this tiny guy,
Right.
and you realize that the people there were very, very small, and they built these huge things, but they were tiny, tiny people. And you just suddenly felt like we are not alone. Like he was calling in all the ancient, lineage and teachings and wisdom and ceremonies that had happened there before. And it's like suddenly he was bigger than his own energy field. It was like you could feel him touch the stones. And what I loved about the stones in Machu Picchu is that they made a sound. I mean, and again, it's like, okay, is this like little creatures that are inside the rocks or anything? But it literally felt that like the rocks were humming. That was what was so strange.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, and I'm like going, I don't think this is a cricket. I don't think this is a bug or a bird. They're humming. It's not a bird sound or a chirp. It's a hum. And there was actually Rusty Kutcher, I don't know, the musician. He actually took the sound and he made it into music, so you can actually hear this humming that's in the background, and he uses it in his Machu Picchu Impressions, which is one of his albums that he did. And when I was there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is this sound. This is a real sound.
Yes.
I don't know where it's coming from, but it's really real. So, to me, it's like then you come back here and then you appreciate the vibration of the redwood trees even more, and like you and I were talking about in another video, it's like it's a stewardship, when you're here with these trees. Like you don't own these trees. You're just getting an opportunity to sort of protect them. And that's why I planted all my little baby redwood trees, and they're doing just fine, my little baby redwoods, so they're in the right place.
Yes.
So, and I told the big trees to take care of the little baby trees. So
Yes, and they do.
And they do. They absolutely do. It's really amazing. So anyway, so we just wanted to share some stories. Thanks you guys for joining us.
Thank you.